about the new song, Dopamine. So it's funny because I was going to ask you about all the songs, but we would be here for hours.
We would be
so
here
I picked
tomorrow.
picked a new one.
Yeah.
One question I'm quite interested in, whose perspective is Dopamine from?
It's from both perspectives. So obviously the song is insane, obviously, but the song is inspired by like, the best way to summarize it is as like survivor's guilt. So like, you know, like maybe you've been in a struggle that you've managed to like escape, and then but you feel a bit guilty because maybe like people that you know are still kind of living in that space, if that makes sense.
Nice, yeah.
So it's from the perspective of the person who's managed to escape the struggle, but in terms of like the things that they're fearful are being said of them or to them when they like come back round to like link up with the people that were sharing in the struggle with them. So it's from the perspective of the person, but also from the perspective of the people left behind as well. So it's like, yeah, inside the tormented mind of the person with the survivor's guilt, but also from the perspective of the people left behind.
I love that so much.
Cool.
Yeah,
that is what I got from it in the sense. So
good.
I love these like comparisons between like, you know, like the line about Chardonnay and stuff.
It's
like take us with you, but you can't.
It's like, but it's like it's even like you kind of can, but you would maybe choose not to, because maybe when you end up in these like shiny new places. So obviously, it's for me, it's from the perspective of like being an artist, but I think it can apply to anything. It can apply to being an artist, or it can apply to like maybe you just like got your dream job and now you've got money and the rest of your friends don't, and it's like, oh, like you're not gonna invite us to these places because maybe you feel like embarrassed that like of us now that you're like in the upper echelon or whatever, like. But it's like, even for me, it was almost like when I was writing the song, I was like, I hope like when I get to that point that I wouldn't be like that. I don't think I would be, but like it's always a fear of mine that people will be like, oh, like
you've changed.
BINA thinks she's nice or she's changed, and I'm
She's
like,
switched up.
yeah, and I'm like, even at the point now where I'm like, I'm not even famous, like I'm not even, you know, I'm still building my dream brick by brick, do you know what I mean? And some people will be like, oh yeah, BINA's changed now, and I'm like, oh, like we haven't even started, so what's it gonna be like?
It's that highlight thing, you know, like
it's the highlight reel for sure. And that's where the chorus comes from as well, because it's like, obviously from the outside looking in, it always looks glamorous, and it's like, oh my god, like I saw that you were just on tour, and it's like, you didn't see that I didn't eat today from when I was making my way from Brussels to Paris. You didn't see that I didn't eat, like
you thought I was sitting
you
like,
thought I was chilling first class in the plane.
Champagne.
No, I'm here to tell you, like, and even like outside of like the mechanics of like this world that is perceived as glamorous, just day-to-day life, like you still like you still go through things, don't you? So sometimes people don't always perceive that, and that can be for anybody experiencing anything, not just like the world of like an artist.
Well, that's why it's interesting you mentioned, like, you know, even if you get your dream job, because it's still like a big lifestyle switch. That's actually why it's a great song. I feel like some artists, you know, it's like that phrase, like writing for writers, you know, like a song can be too much about, oh, I'm an artist.
And it was like, I think even when I was writing it, like it wasn't a cerebral process at all. Like I wasn't thinking like, I'm gonna write this song for everyone to relate to. I just kind of wrote, like, the seed of what I was inspired by was very nuanced and specific, but what it grew into was something that a lot of people can relate to and have told me that they've related to. Like even people that have told me that, oh, like I'm like an immigrant or like a refugee from this place that's actually like currently like in turmoil right now, and I really resonate with this song because I literally am like one of the ones who got away.
Wow.
And I literally got that message today, and I was like, rah, like I could cry right now, because like that's
why
crazy.
It's a great song.
And it's like for anything, like even like I remember when I was at school, like if I got like grades, like if I got good grades, I'd feel a bit awkward like telling my friends who didn't get the grades they wanted, and they're like they'll be like oh, I'll be like, oh, what did you get? And they'll be like, oh, I got like an E. What did you get? And I'll be like, oh, don't worry.
I got
A star,
do that well.
I'm like, oh, I got an A, but I was like 2 marks of A star. And you always seem out of touch in those situations like that, and that's even just on like a mini like level, right? But yeah, like thank you.
There's levels to it though, because well, like it's funny, like someone who's, say from the perspective of an artist, could maybe have 20 muffin listeners, and they meet someone that's got 2,000 monthly listeners, and they're getting shows and go, damn, and they see that as a lifestyle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas you could then meet, maybe when you're on tour with like Yasmin Lacey, you see the levels or something. You know?
But it's like, even, you know what, like when I was on tour with Yasmin Lacey, like I got to see the levels of things, but I also was really grateful that she's just like such a genuine person. So I didn't feel like out of touch for the most part, out of depth. Yeah. And it was like, because I was already listening to the music and like I'd like met her a couple times, it was just like I didn't feel like, oh, I'm getting to see the inside of this glamorous world. If anything, I was getting to see the mechanics of what it's like to put on a headline tour. So it was like really just like eye-opening. I
had that experience as well when there was like some like very like kind of established artists that I was in the studio with, and when I imagine these guys in the studio, I imagine like, you know, when you see videos of like TDE, or just like all these like, you know, like Travis Scott, he's got like a wall of speakers, and it's like, you know, and Justin Vernon pops in and all that. And then I was in the studio and it was just his living room. You know what I mean? I'm like, holy shit,
because
there's
the
like
stuff we see of people that are like big musicians, it's like, it's so that we see it and go, wow, that's an amazing lifestyle. But that's not really.
But they capture the highlight reel as well, like, and sometimes, you know, sometimes there are really super glamorous moments, and other times it's just like, like I literally recorded this like in my room, you know, like
under like a duvet, you know, and it worked.
And it worked. Like I just think like there's so many different ways to get the same results. And always from the outside looking in, it's like it's either going to seem easier or more difficult than it actually is.
Well, it's interesting where I think I kind of said out my depth, but that's when I realized I'm not. Because I saw what these guys are doing. And I went, okay, you know what I mean? We've got the same tools.
Same tools. And one of my friends like explained this to me from like a different perspective, like from the perspective of like fashion. Like I was saying earlier about like Fashion Week and stuff, and like one of my friends went to a Fashion Week show and was like, oh yeah, like I was sitting in front of like literally like this celebrity and that celebrity were like sitting right in front of me, and I just deeps like, oh, like they're actually just like normal people with more experience points than us. Like that's literally, it's just like a game when some people have more XP than other people. Like that's literally what it is. And I was like, oh shit, like that's a really cool way to think about it, because it's like you then, for one, you humanize these people as you should, and also you realize like the degrees of separation are not that big, and
especially if they're both at the same place. Do you know what I mean? There's only so much money can really do, because like they're both going to be at the same shows.
They're both going to be at the same shows. Like even like I remember one auntie when I used to work in the phone shop, like this Nigerian lady came in and I was like, oh, like, do you like London? She was like, no. I was like, oh, why are you here then? And she was like, oh, I just kind of got like caught up in the rat race. And she just was also like, the thing with London is regardless of how much or how little money you have, you're all kind of like, the variation between like quality of life and like life experience is very like close. Do you know what I mean? Like you can be like flat out like broke and then be like medium rich and then be even like quite well off, and it's like you're probably all gonna bump into each other at the same supermarket.
Yeah,
do you know
you're
what I
still
mean?
on the tube.
You're still in you're still in the shoes. Literally on the same. You're still on the tubes. Like, so it's just like
interesting.
It's not really.
I guess just because it's so small.
Say it again.
It's so small in the grand scheme of how like densely populated it is.
It's so small, but then also just like the way that life is like laid out is like so that it would be, and not always, but like a lot of the time, like being broke, like in London, like you can still kind of feel like at least act like you're not.
Okay.
Like, but it's like, hey, if I open my online banking right now, everybody will laugh. You know what I mean? You might even cry with me, but like, you know, I don't look it. So not me specifically, but respect. You know, it could also be based on a true story. But that's
gonna switch it up for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you could be on any reality TV show or game show, what would it be? Joy, what are you saying?
Right. So I don't know if I spoke about this in the last podcast, but I think I could win Big Brother.
You win it.
But I'm also scared that like I would be cancelled, and I don't know why, because I don't think I've ever done anything cancelable, but I just feel like something would happen, and I would be like, I'd be on all the papers, and I'd come out thinking I was made to be the nation's sweetheart, and I'd come out to,
and everyone hates you.
Yeah, it'd be no audience, just Davina McCall going,
Well,
do you remember when you said this? And I'd be like, do you, like,
can you still drink on the new one? Is it
yeah,
like...
they were wrecked this
Yeah, okay,
season.
okay,
They
yeah,
were
yeah.
steaming this season.
But there's been like so many like crazy moments like in the past and that, but you do think like,
Yeah.
you know, you're on TV, but I bet when you're in there, like,
I think you must forget.
you're lost.
But that's what I'd be scared of.
Yeah.
Like, forgetting.
Oh, you do,
Yeah.
I think I'd like, this is so sad, but like, I think it would be good for me to like not be on my phone for that length of time.
No.
Like to have like a little break.
Yeah. That's like, you know how some people do like silent retreats? You'd go on Big Brother instead. And
Yeah,
just
and I'm
be
like, just lock away my phone, 6 weeks,
yeah.
like social media break,
Mm.
and then I'd come out and I would be on. You don't even
Yeah,
you
you'd
don't
be-
even know how much I'd be on my phone when I get out.
Mm.
And my phone would like the battery would be just gone in seconds. I'd be doing stuff.
Scrolling so fast.
Yeah, you
Are
have
you
no
like
idea.
to catch
attached
up.
to your phone?
Yeah, like it's the way I like iPad Kid on my phone is like something you've never seen before. Like I could like some people were like I saw this thing and it was like you've got to stay in this room and like for every day you stay in this room you can win like £10,000 or something like that. And I thought, see if I had my phone, I could live there for a year. Like I would be like it'd be fine.
Really?
Clutch. Like it'd be
It'd be
fine.
clutch. That's jokes.
What TV show?
What TV show?
Or game show? It can be either.
So
Same
I
one
would
for me.
probably go on a game show more so than like a reality
Me too.
TV show. I'd either go on like Eggheads or I'd go on like or I'd go on like
Eggheads.
Eggheads or like read all about it, or I'd go on like, you know that show, I forgot the name of it, but it's like you have to answer the questions with like the answer that the most people said, and it's like
Pointless.
pointless, yeah.
Pointless, yeah.
That's so hard,
Yeah.
I think.
I'd go on
Pointless.
there. I feel like that would be
Depends on
fun.
the topic though.
Yeah,
You know?
I feel
Yeah.
like I'd
you
really
can,
enjoy
I think you can
that.
get lucky with the topics and be like, I know something niche.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to
yeah,
get
yeah.
an answer that nobody else has guessed.
Yes.
That's fun
That's
to
so
me.
hard,
I'd
though, I
rather that
think.
than like, because with the other shows, it feels like you have to manufacture conflicts, and I'm like, I actually just,
Yeah.
I'm already in here without my phone or my friends. Like, just maybe leave me alone. That'd be great.
I would
That'd be really
definitely like
nice.
assume a character if I went on a show like that.
You
There
just
was
seem a character.
Yeah, it was a guy.
I can
know-
imagine you giving it your all for production. Like, just
I'd be like, no, I would like as soon as I step in there, I would be like, I'm not Mikey anymore. I would just invent a whole thing. It'd
Yeah,
be
you
crazy.
just totally different.
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
But
There was a
then
guy.
That would be a good one though.
It'd be class.
Because there was that season, it was like Celebrity Big Brother, and they had that girl, was it Chanel? She went on, she wasn't a celebrity, and she had to pretend that she was. And she won, I think. Yeah, she won. So she went on and she was like, and they were like, you have to pretend you're in a girl band and that like you do all this stuff, and she was like had to just lie from the beginning,
crazy.
and then her and Preston from the Ordinary Boys were in a relationship and they fell in love and it was so nice. I love him.
I remember Preston from like Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know
was
that-
'cause-
that's,
that was because was it Simon Amstel?
Yes.
He was slagging off his wife Chanel from Big Brother, and
Wouldn't have it.
and he was he's just reading her book. He was literally just reading her book, but what was it? It wasn't a good book. So
I would love to be on Prime Nevermind the Buzzcocks with him. That would be that'd be class.
That
Yeah.
would be good.
I almost forgot about that show. That show was kind of fire, if I'm
I've-
remembering it correctly.
With him, I think he was really good. I don't remember the other hosts.
I
you
don't
know,
remember
but-
the names
It's-
of any of them.
Simon
like-
Amstel was that one. That's all I know.
he was
yeah.
good. There was a guy on it before, and I can't really remember it, but it reminds me of being a child. Like when I think back to it, because my mum used to watch it on TV when I was
Yeah,
little.
I just every time I think
Yeah.
of Nevermind the Buzzcocks, like I literally just think of being 8 years old.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I watch it, with mum and dad. I'm like, oh boy, you know, because it's a good.
Oh, it's on,
It's
it's
a
late
good
night.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm up late.
Yeah.
What would you be on?
Good question. I think for like assuming a character, I think Come Dine With Me would be really fun.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
that would
so
be good.
it's so up close, you
Yes.
know.
Some
and
of
I would just try and do the most out of pocket stuff, you
Yeah.
know. Because like there was a guy. What inspired it was there was a guy I know that moved to New Zealand, and he went on like a dating show, and he was the type of guy that like here.
From here.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, I know what you're talking
This guy, like, when, like, an episode of Game of Thrones would come out, he would just go on Facebook and go, oh boy, and he would just post, like, the most crazy spoilers and just, like, revel in the comments, people going crazy. And so when he was on this episode of this show, he was just, like, at it. Like,
Was he
he was, like,
drinking milk?
he drank a pint of milk.
Yeah.
That'd be
I
crazy.
remember that.
But I would do that on Come Down With Me. The thing is, you got to do things that are, like, you don't like you're too obviously at it. So people are like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
he's playing up.
Yeah.
You want to just
Do you know who?
please, bro.
You know that meme that went around the time? The guy that's like, "Well done, Jane. Hope you enjoy the hope you enjoy the money."
I just think the people who come down to me are
Yeah.
so painfully normal, and it's
Yeah.
like those are the people that are insane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because like some of the episodes that come down to me I've watched, and it's like I'm like I can't believe this. There was
Yeah.
one episode I watched, and it was like by the end of the week there was this woman. I think her name was. I feel like her name was Tina, but it might not have been Tina. I went on Reddit to like search people that had, and then she was like, they were like, she's the most vile person I've ever seen. Like,
oh my God.
Basically, like the whole week was just like a feud between two like halves of the dinner parties, and by the last episode, they were all having to draw like pictures of each other or something, and that somebody drew her, and she just like couldn't take the joke, and she honestly looked like she was going to kill this woman. Like, I need you to watch it. Like, I need to like
I will.
like input a link into this. Yeah, like, yeah, like after we post this podcast, I'm putting a link into this episode of Come Down Me so everybody watches it.
After.
It's so it's so insane. It felt like I was watching like, I don't know, just like just humans.
It's like a little social experiment.
Yeah, and it was just like the degradation of like the way people talk to each other when it was insane. It was like they've been locked in a room together for 40
what do you
years.
think it'd be like watching that back? Like, because a few years later, you'd...
I don't think she would be watching that back. No. I think she'd be like that after that. Or people, maybe she's like that.
Maybe she's
and
proud of herself.
And she's like that. Yeah. She's like, I'm a villain. Like,
Is that villain?
Yeah, like, I think I'd like to go on the Traitors as well.
Which one's a Traitors?
That's new.
I don't know.
And it was really good. It was on last year.
What do you do?
So you basically go into a house and you get chosen, like if you're a traitor or faithful, and if you're a traitor you have to like kill off, but you just like basically like they get like eliminated from the game.
Okay.
So like you have to like kill them off, and you have to decide it with the other traitors, and nobody knows who the traitors are, but you all have to work together in a big group to earn the money that either the traitors or the faithfuls win. But I'm also a bad liar, so
is it kind of like Among Us in a weird way?
I don't know.
It's
What
like,
that
you
is.
remember that game Wing Murderer that we used to play at school? Did you guys ever play Wing Murderer at school?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's like Wing Murderer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know.
It's exactly. Wing Murderer.
I used to
that's
love
more
that
than
game. Oh my god,
yeah.
Okay.
But like like you have to, if you're a traitor, you have to be a good liar.
You gotta be in it.
And I couldn't be picked as a traitor because the guilt would be written all of me. I'd be like that. In the morning, like at the breakfast table, they'd be like, I wonder who the traitors are. I'd be like,
well, do you remember a game called, I don't know if you've seen this, I think it's a Scottish show, it's called Golden Balls.
Yeah.
Do you remember Golden Balls?
Oh my god, Split or Steal!
Yes, Split or Steal!
That's a game I'd love to be on. Oh my god.
Crazy.
From the get-go though, I'd be like, I'm stealing. No matter what it is, I'd want the seat.
Oh my god, I used to love that game.
I just like watching the finals on YouTube, you know, like...
I used to get so like, you know the person that was just like, I'm definitely gonna split, and then they like steal last minute, and I would be like...
Some people would be like, I really need this money. You know what I mean? Like, and this is really helping us both. You know what I mean? Like, it is... My favourite one was when this guy was like, I'm gonna steal.
I've seen that one, and he's like, whatever you like, I don't care what you do, but I'm gonna steal this money.
He's like, look, I'm gonna steal, okay? So you pick split, and then afterwards, I'm gonna split the money with you. And the other guy's like, why are you doing this? He's like so stressed. And he's like, hey, look, just trust me, okay? I'm gonna steal, and afterwards, I'll split the money with you. And like, it's like proper like drama. Like you can script that.
It's so intense.
Yeah.
But then
because it's such a simple. Does he? Oh.
So yeah, he just splits. Do you remember? So like,
why am I actually shocked? I've seen it.
Yeah.
So wait,
I was like, that's how good it is.
And they both
split. So the one guy A is being like, I'm gonna steal, but if you do split, I will split the money with you afterwards. Yeah. And he's like, why don't we just both do split then? And he's like, yeah.
So do they both end up doing split?
He did split anyway, so he lied. He wasn't gonna steal ever. Oh. But he basically convinced that guy to do split, so they officially split it.
Oh, cute. That's good.
Like a little tear on him, man. That was beautiful.
Imagine the other guy was like, okay, cool, I'll split, but then at the last minute he stole.
Evil.
Well, how dramatic would that been though? Because he would have opened up and his would have actually been split, while that guy would have stole.
The
gag of the century.
Right?
Actually.
Yeah.
To be honest.
You have to fall on the floor.
Yeah, because there's that one of that girl, and she's like, oh no, I'm like so scared, like I don't know what to do, and he's like, no, it's fine, we're definitely gonna split the money, I'm definitely gonna split. And then she's like that, and she's like crying, and he's like, and it's honestly like she's a villain, like she is a villain.
The comments on that one on YouTube are absolutely wild. People are just like, women are evil.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I bet.
That's crazy.
Not to go too much into game shows, but it would be for me, Come Down With Me or Takeshi's Castle.
Whoa. Oh my god, Takeshi's Castle is busted.
That was like a dream of mine as a child. Like I really wanted to be on that.
I used to love that show. Oh my god, I actually
crazy.
almost forgot about that one. That show is lit.
That's crazy. Like that is a crazy show.
Yeah.
And like, do you remember the end when like the tanks and that? It's only like the only people only won that like a few times.
Yeah, it's like
a couple
8
times.
winners or something. Yeah. Something crazy. Like
It's tiny. It's impossible.
I don't think I'd like to do that at all. I would not enjoy that. I went to that trampoline park place and they have like a bit that's like Ninja Warrior. And I did not enjoy it. Yeah, no, I was like, this is so hard. How does anybody do this? I just felt like my arms were popping at the sockets every 5 seconds. It was so hard.
That's
it was impossible. I was like,
oh my god,
what the heck?
Oh, okay. So to kind of go back to the music, actually, I'm curious. You've not released like an album yet. You've got an EP, right?
A couple EPs.
Cool. If you were to release an album, do you think you would go with like a whole concept? And if so, have you got a concept in mind?
I don't think I'd go with a concept. No? I think naturally, because I'd be making all the music in like a concentrated period of time.
Cool.
It would all like, the theme would come together by itself. I think that's like kind of how I approach like all of my projects. Like the theme comes later. Like I don't actually go into like EP or album mode. Like, okay, I'm going to write an album or an EP about X, Y, and Z. Like I'll just start writing songs. Cool. And then I'll be like, oh, well, there's actually a thread that runs through this. And like, even how I come to get my song titles, there's always like a really like roundabout way about like how I come to like the title of like, so like with my last EP, like my foster mum got me a Polaroid camera for my 20th birthday, and like when you first take the picture, like the first like thing that comes out is like a blank that says like, this is not a film, or this is not film. And I wrote that down in like my little list of like song titles and like project titles, and I was like, oh, like one day, I don't know when I'm going to use this, but it's going to come in clutch one day. And then like I was making this project in lockdown, and I was like, oh, like this is not a film, that's what I'm going to call it, because like what a year.
That's one of
and
those
not
titles.
Even because of COVID, it was just like a chaotic year just in my personal life. So I just was like, yeah, this is not film, this is definitely like my real life that we're writing about.
That's one of those titles that I see and go, fuck, I wish I thought of that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'd love to steal that.
Like,
Yeah.
2.0.
Yeah. Remix.
Mikey's
reprise. Mikey's version.
This is
Mikey's reprise.
This is not a book.
This is not a book. I'll just be giving you side eye like okay, like cool.
So interesting actually when you mentioned kind of like when you go into the studio, do you have a thought in mind about like, I need to get this off my chest?
Never. Like I think what ends up coming up is dictated by the sounds I'm hearing in the music and just like the overall day. So I don't necessarily write about the day that I've had, but like even for example with Dopamine, like I didn't come in like, oh, I'm gonna write a song about how like people keep telling me that I think I'm too nice. Like no, like that wasn't what happened. Like I literally went into the studio. I didn't have a Scooby about what I was gonna write. Like I wasn't even like, I had come from my friend's house, so it was like I hadn't even been in an introspective space that day. So like I literally went to studio, and then like we listened to a vinyl by this artist called Courtney Barnett, and like we were just listening to that, and then Subculture started playing the drums, and I was like, okay, I really like these drums. And then like started playing the keys, and then I just like, and I remember I was ill that day as well, so I was like, okay, well the majority, like I'm gonna end up approaching this song differently because my vocal range is actually kind of limited right now because I've lost half of my voice.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so it was like, then that dictated how like I approached the writing and like the melodies. And yeah, like I just, things just started falling out of me in terms of when I was writing. And I always say like when I make music, sometimes I end up like healing wounds that I didn't know existed.
Cool.
So like that was one of these examples.
With
Dopamine. With Dopamine. And like I can probably name like quite a few of my other songs that are like this, but it's like I don't really like going into a session like, oh, I'm gonna write this, because I actually find that quite limiting. And I also put a lot of pressure on myself to stay on track with the story. But if I'm just feeling a lot of things, then I'll like start with processing one thing, and then once I'm like, okay, cool, like I guess I'm telling a story here right now, let me then continue that story. And that's how
it comes together.
Yeah.
What's interesting, you mentioned kind of like hearing the beat first, because with Dopamine, I think it couples so well with the topic because there's such like a good build and release of tension throughout the song.
Yeah.
And I think it's even teed up well with the first line where it's like, is it hiding from your neighbors, hugging all the strangers?
Yeah.
When I first listened to Dopamine, I instantly was in the mind of like, it's like a split.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, like, because obviously when when I imagined it, obviously from my artist's point of view as well, it's like an industry event or something where you are kind of like you have to put on. So you're gonna hug a stranger because you put on, but
that's literally like when I remember I'd actually had that train of thought like a few weeks before, because I was realizing like I just deeped it one day. I was like, wait, like I haven't seen most of my neighbors in like a good like month, because I would just be like in and out, like just just going about my life, and I was like, I haven't actually seen most of my neighbors, the people that literally live to the left and right of me, but like I'm meeting all of these people all the time, and I'm like giving hugs out and like, hey love, and I'm like, I don't actually know you, but hi, like
that's amazing.
So I had that thought, and then it just came back to me in that moment, and I was like, oh, like and then just continued to write from there, and it all just kind of flowed and flowed and flowed.
So you had that line first?
I had that line, the hiding from your neighbors, hugging all the strangers, and I was trying to find it in my notes because I was pretty sure I'd written it down somewhere, like when I first like thought of how funny it was to me, like just the juxtaposition between like not really ever bumping into the people that I literally live right next to, but like meeting all of these people like when I'm out and about doing like my artist shit, like, and it's just like really funny to me.
It's a great concept because it reminds me of Swimming, the album by Matt Miller.
Yeah, but I haven't listened to it, to be honest.
He opens up with like, my regrets feel like texts I shouldn't send, and I've got neighbors, they feel more like strangers, we could be friends.
Oh damn, that's real though.
It's an interesting concept.
It's so real,
it's beautiful concept.
It's so true. It's so true. And even like in the literal sense of your neighbors, but also even just like sometimes when you're like busy with your life, whatever you're doing, and then you're like, oh damn, like I haven't actually like seen my friends in ages, or like I'll be like, oh, I haven't actually like spoken to my sister in God knows how long, like I keep missing her calls, but then like she'll watch my story and be like, oh my God, yeah, go sis, like I'm so proud of you, you're doing your thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I actually need to call you back. It's really awkward, but like it's so weird, like just like when you think about like proximity and like everything with that and the tricks it plays on you sometimes.
It's interesting you mentioned I've totally forgot what I was going to say. Well, no, sorry, I just remembered. It's interesting you mentioned like sometimes when someone asks me about like a lyric, people take it very literally. So like, when I heard neighbors, I'd thought of the concept of just like people that are close to you. But some people would be like, wow, she's really not spoke to her neighbors in a while. You know what I mean? Like, just
people would be like, oh, I didn't speak to my neighbors at all. Like,
Who guys know? But it's like people can take things literally. But I also think like the joy of like making music is like it's both very personal and universal at the same time. So it's like everyone's gonna process it very differently. People sometimes are even gonna hear lyrics wrong, like, but the interpretation that everybody gets from the song is always very different, but it's like it all kind of is centered around the same thing. Like I was telling you about like some of the messages I've received or like some of the comments, and I'm like, oh wow, like you guys actually really understand this song and the concept. But I haven't actually overtly written like, this is a song about da da da. Like no, you're breaking down like the details of the experience, and then everybody takes from it what they want or what they will, like. For sure. And it's really cool and interesting to see how people like interpret it. That's what art is, it's just putting life into context. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how you do it. If someone can put their own life into it. Well, it's like when you mentioned about like when I listened to it, or maybe when you listen to it, I don't know, I thought about an artist, but like of course it could be like someone that got a great job. You know what I mean? But it applies it's about all of the things. It's about all of them. Because like as I said, like the seed of what inspired it then expanded into something a lot bigger, and you hear that as the song goes along, you're like, oh okay, cool, like I'm not just writing about me specifically, like I'm writing about just the whole feeling of anxiety and guilt that can like surround making it out of something, getting to the other side of something.
Well, that kind of brings me to something else, because Yasmin Lacey's new album, I really like the intro track being like, it's like Fly Low's tweet. That's so cool. And I was going to ask you what you thought about, because the tweet is self-consciousness is the creativity killer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Very wholeheartedly. Like, as I said to you, like a lot of the time, all of the best writing I've done has been when I'm not thinking about writing a good song. So like, and even me and Subculture spoke about this before we made Dopamine, we were like, sometimes there's so much pressure to make the last banger you made. And it's like, that can just be the most like damaging thing to the creative process. Like even sometimes I'm always a little bit nervous when I get back in session, not always, but sometimes I'm a bit nervous when I get back in session with like a producer that I've made a really amazing song with, because it's like they might like send you beats that are like, oh, okay, like we're gonna try and make that song like or something as good as that song again, chasing the high again. And it's happened a couple times, like where like I've made a really cool song with somebody, and like then they will like send me beats, or we'll get back in session again, and it's like, oh, but the magic that we had, it's not there anymore, because we're like, oh, like we made this really sick song, we've got to make like but it's like, no, like just come in and kick it, like it's meant to be a fun game, like it's meant to be a fun game. I think that the whole self-consciousness thing is so real, like when you sit down and you start thinking, or you start being too aware of yourself, like I think you have to, I wouldn't say dissociate, but you have to kind of disintegrate into from being like a solid being into like the emotion you're feeling, and just become this thing that can like mold into whatever it is that
I
get
it, in the sense of like I really am a big believer in the idea of like we're all the universe, experiencing the universe for ourselves. It's all one big stream of consciousness. And
you channel everything. Like I don't think
you can
that
tap into that in a song, that's why people relate to it.
Exactly. Like I think like I just think of ideas flowing like this. Like I don't really think of like, oh, there's something in me that needs to come out. It's more like something comes down.
Have you seen Rick Rubin's book,
The Creative Act? I have the book. I started reading it.
I find it a bit hard to get through, but I like picking it up.
It's very like there's a lot of like like Rick Rubin, we love you and that, but like I just think there's a lot of words. It's a very wordy book, and I'm like,
you showed me the other day.
Yes,
I saw it in your flat.
And it's got
when I was getting ready
with lines on them in the back.
Wait, no.
Oh, right. Before, I don't want to go too far away from what I was about to ask you, but Rick Rubin, I hope you listen to this. Outrageous. I hate, why am I taking notes in the back of your book? I'm going to use a notepad. You know what I mean? Like, well, every time I need to come back to that note, I'm going to pick up the creative whatever. You know what I mean? No. £25 I pay for that book.
Yeah, I was like, wow. You've been robbed.
It's a very well marketed book. And I also like, I remember I bought the book because my friend was reading it, and I read a few pages of it, and I was like, wow, this book is actually really good. But then like, as I got into the book, I was like, oh, like it's affirming in some ways, but then I also was like, oh, but like there's mad words, like, oh, like.
Well, it's interesting what you mentioned about ideas being like up here, and I've always felt that where I don't feel like an idea comes from here. I feel like I catch like the scent of a good idea, and I'm like, there it is.
Yeah.
He mentions like, you know, like ideas are all up here, and the universe drops them down to you, and it's like if you don't take the idea, it just goes down the stream.
I've seen it happen. Like I've literally come up with ideas for things. Even I paint as well, so sometimes I'll come up with like an idea for a painting that I want to do, not tell anybody about it. It's just in my head. Then I don't do it, and then I see somebody post like an idea that they've, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake!
Like they've copied me.
You've copied me somehow. But yeah, like you've ripped it from my mind. But yeah, I definitely think like idea. You just catch a scent of an idea. That I like that analogy. Like
it was beautiful when I saw that. Yeah, I thought like, that's cool.
You take it and do with it what you will.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know. I feel like that's what makes an idea good. Like if it's only good to you, as much as I do hear people say that, like, oh, you should totally write about you. It kind of works like an inverse, because if you write something so personal, the whole point is that everyone can relate to it. Because like that self-conscious thing, there's stuff that I've written I come back to and I'm like, this sounds cool, but that's not actually that good.
Yeah, I think
if I look at something and I'm embarrassed by it afterwards, I'm like, that's the best stuff.
No, yes, literally. Like I remember the first song that I released that was like inspired by a experience I'd had like with somebody. I was really nervous to release the song because I was like, oh, they're gonna like contact me and be like, oh, like, is this song about me? And I'm gonna have to own up to it. And it was, but then once I was like, yeah, it is about you actually, and you know it is, so let's not play dumb. But like, I actually, after I released that song, I began to like think of it as like a game. I was like, okay, how like raw can I get now? Like how much more like of myself can I expose, so to speak? Do you know what I mean? Like it's
so funny because there's a line you've got where it's like, oh, you told me you love me, did I ask you?
Everyone always quotes that line.
If I heard that,
everybody quotes like, that line. Like, but do you know what's so funny? Like that song, before I released the project, I played the whole project to the person because we hadn't spoken during that period when I was making the EP, and then like I was like, oh yeah, so like I finished my project, do you want to hear it? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So played the song, and then they were like, whew, you really got your feelings off your chest, didn't you? I was like, yeah, I did. Yeah, you pissed me off. Thank you though. You got a good song out of it. But like
I got something good at that.
People always quote that line, "You say you love me, did I ask you?" It is kind of rude.
I think it's
it's
the combination of like, it's a great line, but your delivery on it is perfect.
Oh, really?
It's perfect. Yeah. It's like, because like, did I ask you? It's kind of like,
yeah.
When I heard it, I went, oh, it's like a bar, you know?
Yeah,
like
I literally felt like that. But even like, that was a song that I wrote it like in my voice memos. So like I was just playing the beat and I was just like saying stuff that was coming to my head. And some of it was like words coming and some of it was like just kind of scatting melodies. And then I was like, and I was like, and then when I went back to like make sense of what I was saying, I was like, okay, you say you love me, did I ask you? Because it was real. I genuinely felt like that. I was like, every second, I love you, or whatever. Like, but yeah, I love that song.
I really do like that song as well. Yeah.
Very personal, but that's real. That's one of the examples of like feeling a bit embarrassed, because even some of the other lines in the chorus, like like, now this is done when I'm healthy, I can caress myself if I need. And then I'm like, oh yeah, so like my older family members are hearing me write this song, and then I'm like singing this song, and it's like, oh, like we all know like what she's talking about, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? But like but it's real though, and it's kind of freeing to write songs that you wouldn't cringe at them because they come from a real place, but it's kind of like that whole thing of like, you have that exhilarating like fear in you where you're like, oh, this is a bit scary, and then you're like, oh,
I feel that
wasn't so bad
sometimes about like saying stuff that's like just quite outrageous in a song as well, but then
I love artists that do that. I love artists who do that.
There was one not long ago where my mum and dad were in the crowd. There's this St. Luke's in Glasgow and I get really into it on stage. There's this line where I was like, this place is like a brothel, my life is a debacle, I get it so wet, I always need goggles. And afterwards my mum was like,
why did you have to say that?
Yeah.
That is jokes.
It's so humbling, you know what I mean? Like, for a bunch of strangers, I'm like, this is fucking crazy.
Do you know what?
And my mum's there, I'm like, I'm like, sorry.
I remember one time my dad came to one of my shows and I was singing Just a Sec. But I think one thing that I really respect about him is he doesn't pick apart my lyrics. Like, he doesn't like say like, why did you say that? I think he kind of understands that, like, I'm growing into an adult human being, like, so obviously there's gonna be content in there that's not very like PG, but like he's just like a little proud dad moment. He just more like getting to notes about like, oh, make sure like confident on the stage, it's your words, just very like dramatic. But like I think some of my aunties like and like other extended family will sometimes be like, oh, you got a bit of a potty mouth in you, and I'm like, oh, like please, like it had to be said.
Actually, I was reading an interview before where you mentioned like you have like a foster family as well. How did that kind of affect like your musical influences? Was it like, tell me more about the family? I mean, it exposed me to some new music. Like my foster mum she loves Lianne La Havas. So like I got into her music through her. Like she'd always play her music, and then like I'd start listening to Lianne La Havas, and I was like, wow, she's so sick. And then it made me want to pick up guitar again because my dad bought me. I don't know.
She's a singer. She's from London, and she's a singer songwriter. She plays guitar, and like I remember, well, when I was like maybe like 7 or 8, like my dad bought a guitar from the car boot sale, but it never stayed in tune. So it was just like this like guitar, but like it kind of, I guess back in retrospect, like it piqued my interest in guitar, but I never like learned to play it. And then like when I was like 17, like my foster mom was playing like Lianne La Havas, and I was like, wait, who is this? And her and her brother like both love her, and like I started listening to her music, and then I fell in love with her and her music, and then like I was like, okay, I need to learn how to play guitar because she just plays guitar so sick. And like some of the first songs I learned were like her songs and stuff. Nice. And then like so I guess that kind of, then she became like one of my like bass influences for like music that because I started properly like making and recording music when I was around 17 anyway.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
like she became one of my bassline influences, and obviously there were like artists I used to listen to growing up with like my birth family, so like they just kind of all combined. But like I'd say like it's influenced my musical influences a little bit, but it's more just kind of influenced my outlook on life. I guess I'm just a lot more like open-minded and like curious about things, and have connectivity with a lot more people, because it's like I've like lived with quite a few families, so it's like sometimes I'll meet people and it's like, oh, where are you from? And they'll be like, oh, like Sierra Leone. And I'm like, oh yeah, like the first like foster family I lived with was from Sierra Leone, so like I've had reference to the culture that way. And then I'm Nigerian, but then I've lived with Caribbean families, so then it's like all of like the cultural references all just blend together. So like I guess
that's what I was curious
it's just
about.
kind of made my worldview a lot broader. So
well, that's what I was quite interested in, because I don't know much about foster care, but obviously like
it's not like Tracy Beaker. I'll just say that now, because a lot of people are always like Tracy Beaker, and I'm like, no, like it's not.
Tracy Beaker lived in one big house, was
one dumping ground. I'm like, no, the majority of like experiences are not like that. Like obviously, if you end up like living in a children's home, it can sometimes give Tracy Beaker, but I didn't have that experience. I didn't live in like a children's home. I lived with like different families.
Well, it's kind of like knowing Joy well. I can like see a lot of your music taste from like your dad and your mom,
yeah,
because they're very musical,
and they're totally different as well.
Yeah, whereas that's what I thought, because like my mom and dad are the same, but then with you having different families,
it's just more references. Because then I have like my dad, and then my mom, and then like my foster mom, and then like her family and what she loves listening to, and then I'd have like any of the other like families that I would live with, like the music I would listen to with them. Like it just kind of means that I just have a wider like library of music, you know.
Well, it's kind of interesting, because I wanted to ask you about genres, because when I was talking to people on the street about it, I don't like picking a genre. I don't like being like, this is a genre. But
what genres came up? I'm interested.
I would describe some of your stuff as like neo soul, but it's interesting because, you know, like D'Angelo and Erykah Badu, they were described as neo soul but didn't like the term, and it was just like a kind of phrase that was made up by a guy that reviewed them. But I've seen you described as like alternative R&B. I've seen described as like jazz, you know. But I was curious what you thought of like these tags.
I think that they help people to have an entry point for like connecting with my music. I think like my music is more like mood based, but if I was to describe it by
you
genre,
just said that wrong.
It's very mood based. Like, but I would say like if I was to describe it by a genre, I'd kind of be like it's like a hybrid of like indie R&B, jazz, soul, that type of thing. The R&B part is, if I was to explain it as a recipe, it would be like, okay, like there's like jazz and soul like at the base, and then there's like a sprinkling of R&B in there, because I'd say like when I listen to artists who are like contemporary R&B or even traditional R&B, I don't think my music I wouldn't file it next to them. But like I would say if it was an R&B branch, it would be indie R&B. So like when you think of like, well, I mean, I hear people describe Leanne La Havas a lot as like indie R&B and jazz. So I would say that, but I even think some of she has more jazz sensibilities than R&B, like when you think of her melody choices. So I do think sometimes, like honestly, like when you're an artist that can sing, especially if you're a black artist that can sing, they will normally just put you in R&B.
We mentioned this,
it's literally that.
It's like, oh, they're black and they're singing R&B.
Literally. And it's like when I think of dopamine and then people go R&B, I'm like,
did you hear it?
This happens a lot, like, because I don't really hear much R&B. Like you said, a sprinkling. It's
a sprinkling of R&B. Like I have some R&B sensibilities in dash. Like it's literally like.
But I would never. It wouldn't be my first go-to. Whereas then you look at like artists like Frank Ocean. Blonde is described as like an R&B album.
It's not an R&B album.
It's not an R&B album.
It's not an R&B.
No,
It's like. It's not.
It's not an R&B album.
I don't know what you would call it. Like
it's
I don't know. It's a mood. It's a mood. Frank Ocean is a great example of that, because he has R&B sensibilities as well in terms of like some of his melody choices.
Channel Orange
leans more towards that, but even then I wouldn't say it's R&B. Like it's more soulful than R&B. But then a lot of obviously times they'll categorize R&B / soul in the kind of the same box. But I think they're made from the same stuff, like blues and like I guess like gospel references and stuff, but they're different. But I don't like getting super political about like genres, because I don't really care. Like I'm just like, I think my music is more of a mood, and whatever entry point you like to use, that's fine. I just would say if I was to describe the recipe of it, R&B is more of like a dash of salt than the whole tomato and onion base.
I think we've moved past genres in a way where like way back, if you have like £20 and you can only spend £20 on buying new music, you don't really want to waste it. You're not going to try on something new, so you'd be like, I'm going to go to the punk section. So that's why like you're going to be like, I like punk music. But now it's like there's no need, you can just scroll through it. Like when you make a playlist, I don't make a hip-hop playlist.
I don't know, I make mood playlists. Like I have a playlist called Yes My Love, and it's basically just like really nice like romantic songs, but they're all in different genres.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it's like you could have Bad Not Good in there, then you could also have Ella Fitzgerald, but then you could also have Summer Walker in there. So it's literally just like
It's like how it makes you feel.
how it makes me
Yeah.
feel more so than like
I've got playlists where like it's like laid back and chill, and it'll be like there'll be Paramore in there, but then it'll go to like It Ain't Easy by Tupac, you know, because it just
Yeah.
works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a mood thing, and I think because we have like so much music at our disposal, a lot of our personal music tastes are a lot broader, and then also like that then influences the way that we make music. So like artists today are making more mood-based music because the things they're listening to, like I just said to you, like I listen to Leanne Havas, but then I'll also listen to Yves Tumor, I'll listen to Korn on occasion, I'll listen to Rihanna, then I'll listen to like Ella Fitzgerald, then I'll listen to like a prog rock band called September. So like I'll just like listen to loads of different things, and then it will be like
This could be all on the same day.
It will be. It usually is all on the same
That's
day.
what Spotify raps like. I'm like, oh, there is not an ounce of like flow.
There's no
playlist.
cohesion. Yeah.
Sidebar.
yeah.
I went to see Yves Tumor recently.
Oh my god.
Have you seen him?
No. Yes, I have. But I didn't know it was him when I saw him.
It
Back
was
in like
insane.
2019, I was doing like the lights and sound for Great Escape, and like I saw Yves Tumor perform there. And I was like, wow, like iconic scenes. But then like I actually got into the music like a year and a half later. And then I was like, wow, like that's so sick. But you saw him recently?
Yeah. Me and Katie went to see him recently, and it was one of the most.
Katie was like,
it was one of the most insane shows I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He like grabbed somebody's phone out the audience because they had like a song request, and he was like, don't try and get me to request songs, like I'm not a jukebox. Half an hour later he was like that. Does anybody have any requests? I was like,
But not you, was
but
it?
it was like that, not you.
oh my
I was
god.
like, it was
I
crazy.
love that.
It was like
Even
it was a real diva moment.
He's been a diva since God
And then
knows when.
afterwards he was like that, can we give it up for me? I was like,
Period. He was so dramatic. Like at Great Escape, like literally in this venue called like Comedia, and it's not like a very big venue, but it was like he brought the show. Like the lights were going crazy. He was being so dramatic. I was like, yes, like we're at your mercy. This is great. Like
At your mercy.
that's
at
so
your
good.
mercy.
I was like, like
Yeah.
anything he said, I was like, oh my god, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to upset him.
yeah, it's like anything. It's like
Whatever you want.
whatever you want. Yeah,
It's interesting because you
amazing
don't
to
get
be
that
able to
effect with
captivate.
like really anything else. Like you don't get that with like you don't go see a movie and you're like, oh my god, I'm at your mercy.
I'm
You
like
get
that.
you can get absorbed in it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
you get absorbed in a
Yeah,
movie. But
yeah.
at your mercy, it is like that sense of
Yeah,
like you know
yeah.
like you're so caught up in it.
Yeah,
you know?
he was like so
yeah.
commanding.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah.
like had me.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was
you
like,
had
whoa.
me.
Take me away,
I was
man.
like, wow, it's amazing. I'm coming on tour.
Yeah.
No, he's sick. I
Yeah.
wish I got to see him this time round.
It was good.
Because now I'm actually like genuinely a fan. Like back then
Yeah.
I was like actually like very fascinated, but I didn't know any of the music. But yeah, he's sick.
You started making music just not long after that. So 2017.
Who, him?
You.
No, I saw him in 2019. So I had been making music by then.
Oh,
But
okay,
it
cool.
was like I was very new. Like I think I'd released like 2 songs and then I'd just like dropped my project like 4 weeks before.
Oh, nice.
So I was still like I was still a small babe
New
in the
about it.
scene. I was still like new, and like even like being like at Great Escape, not to perform that. I performed there a few years later, but like being there like, oh, I'm just volunteering to do like light and sound here was really interesting. Like,
Yeah.
that was fun and like cute little humble moment.
Get like a kind of you see like the other end of things.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was
That's
really
where we
cool.
met.
That is where we met, but
Yeah.
not that one.
No,
But
obviously,
yeah,
like,
that's
you
where
said
we
you
met. We met at
informed.
that
Yeah,
festival.
yeah.
It was such a funny like way that we met as well. It was bare jokes.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
It
just for
was
the
really-
podcast, it was because both of our, we're
Our
both getting a
coach was
coach
delayed.
to London. Yeah, but it didn't come.
It
Yeah,
didn't come.
no.
Like it just didn't come, and we just stood and
It
like
was
chopped it
chatting
up.
away.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and your band were lovely. Was it your band that
It
everyone
wa-
there, or was it people you knew
no,
as well?
it was like just other people that I knew.
Oh, it's interesting.
So it was like me, the DJ, and like the guitarist. Like we were all together as like me and my band, I guess. And then like there was,
I guess.
and then like my other friend who was playing bass for somebody else that day.
Oh, that's why I
So,
thought you were still in
yeah.
the band as well, because it all fit into like
the vibes.
that
No,
could be a
we
whole
just
band,
kind of
yeah.
knew each other from the scene, quote unquote. But like,
Nice.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
cool. It was
very
a
cool.
way to
That's a
meet.
fun way to meet.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was really cool. Now here I am in Dundee, in the sticks. That's like so like you can't write that shit. Like it's so random. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, how else would you really end up in Dundee?
I know.
How else? Imagine if we didn't speak to each other. Imagine if I just was being like the typical Londoner that just kind of like doesn't really interact with people.
Well, I struggled with this quite a lot. It was funny, like when I was like first time visiting my label, and I was with this guy, and I just love smiling at people, or when I walk past them, I'm like, hi. And he was like, why are you doing this?
People will look at you like you're a psychopath in London. But like, me and my friends do it a lot though. Like we'll literally like see people and like be like, you good? Like, or like, hi. Or just like smile a little bit. But people will literally look at you like or they'll be like,
person's probably not right.
Yeah, or they'll be like,
It's
just like
quite telling though. I feel like someone that's willing to just kind of like approach someone, I think they understand like a kind of base thing about being a person where it's like, we're all people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I can know you. Yeah,
we're all people, and people are very fascinating creatures.
Yeah,
so
I want to get
like,
to know you. I want to get to know everyone.
Yeah, not everybody. That said, not everybody, but like a lot of people, I find quite like fascinating.
Even if I disagree with someone, like there's people that I never meet because you kind of end up being in your own like is it echo chamber? The word? You know, your own bubble. I would love to meet someone that I
like having conversations with people I disagree with, or like reading books by people, or like about topics that I'm like, okay, this would usually set me on edge, but this is actually really fascinating to read about.
It's like on Twitter or Reddit, I sometimes try and like seek out like a whole other community that I just do not agree with, but I want to see what they're saying.
I get scared out there. I'm like, to be back where my friends are.
Just closing down home.
Yeah, they're a little frightened.
Yeah,
I hate it out there.
I hate it here.
I think we should wrap this up, but before we do, could you hit us with a would you rather?
I will.
But I feel like you had her like the sword to like carry out an execution, like a really somber task. You were like, can you do would you rather? I will.
I just didn't want to end this chat, you know? Yeah.
I feel like it's not an evil one, I don't think. So
I love that something of my great.
Would you rather that like your life partner, they're the love of your life, everything's amazing, they're perfect, but they are like really, really stingy. Like they will like Monzo request you for like £1.75 and like they never like if they buy something in your house they like cut it in half and they're like, oh that's your half, don't have any of my half. Like they
don't have any of my
like
half.
if they like go out for drinks with like you and your friends, they will like they'll never buy a round, they never pay for anything. Like it's a level of stinginess that's like genuinely really, really unattractive. And the kind of things that they're doing, you like, it's kind of icky. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they are trying to like start a fight club in your local town, and it's like they're trying to get it to be like this underground, like they've just watched Fight Club, and they've gone.
They missed the point of the film.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I love this film about this fight club they've started. I'm going to do that in my I'm going to do that in my town as well.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, it's trying to be underground. So they like give out business cards, and they're like doing kind of network events, and they're going, yeah. So like I have a fight club that you could maybe come to, and like they tried to get it to be underground, but they obviously couldn't. So they've been on Instagram and they've been like posting about it, and they're like, oh yeah, like please like try and come to my fight club. It's like this Friday.
Yeah.
And you have to be like supportive of it.
I feel like I'd rather the Fight Club
because
it's such a
huge,
it was almost a no-brainer. Like it's such a huge turn off for me. Like when I meet people that are just unnecessarily stingy, like it's like
evil.
It's evil. Like it's like, okay, I like, for example, if somebody asks me to lend them money and they say they'll pay me back, but it's like, can you swing me like £7? I'll pay you back. I'm not going to be like, hey, like by the way, like when are you going to run me that £7? It's like, I'm gonna spend that £7 on like 2 meal deals and shit them out anyway. So like, why am I being so like? Why am I being so?
London,
a whole day of TFL which is maybe a reason why somebody might circle back and ask for the £7 because it's a whole day of travel. But like, I just feel like that level of stinginess where it's like you've got a Monzo tab open for what reason? Yeah, like for something so small.
If
like,
somebody Monzoed me for less than a tenner, I'd be like, wow.
I'd be like, wow, okay, I'll send it to you, but this is probably like
I wouldn't
say
it comes back.
I would say it does come back. I'm like, money is a resource.
If I'm out in the shops and I'm like, do you want anything? Yeah, I'm not gonna be like, I'll pick you up a bag of Haribo and like,
can you swing me £2? Like, no.
I'm like, no, next time you're out, I just know one day you'll be at Baines and you'll pick me up a sausage roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would rather the Fight Club. And it's like, I also, even like with the whole like posting on Instagram thing, it's like, child, like sometimes you have to get how you live, and you look embarrassing until your Fight Club like blows up. Until it's picking up, and then people are like, hey, like I'm so proud of your commitment. This is like,
I have this like image of you like trying to explain the point of Fight Club to this guy, and him just being like, no, but the fight.
He's like, but I would. They go to the club and they fight, and it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, I would roll my eyes. Like I think like it would be really annoying. Like if I like it'd be really irritating because I also don't really like people that are a bit like vapid. Like
what does he do? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Runs
the
a
Fight
Fight Club.
Yes. It's pretty
There's a little
underrated,
part
isn't
of
it?
me
Yeah.
that would kind of find it a bit interesting that he's so committed to that.
So this is like, you're kind of like, oh, I actually love this.
I actually love this
Yeah,
for
you're
you.
like,
Like,
I
you're
actually love
so
this. I hope
like
that-
I'm such a
Oh, but yours, wow.
I'm such a dreamer as well. So like sometimes even I've been in situations where like people will tell me like this like little like pipe dream that they have, and I'm like, go off, babes, like do your thing. And then if it doesn't work, I'm like, okay, well, like at least you tried.
Yeah.
I do
it's
find
so
these
fair.
things
Yeah.
incredibly more interesting than like someone being like sometimes like, you know, there's so many people that want to make music, you know what I mean? So that's fine. But someone being like, I want to start a fight club, I'm like, tell me more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want
You
to
would
start
be-
a fight club, even like a reading club or some shit like this. I'll be like, yeah, like okay, tell me more. A fight club, even though they've missed the point of the film, I'm like, the fact that you're so dedicated to this fight club being like a whole movement, and you've made business cards.
Yeah.
Oh, that's passion.
That's
You
how
can
you
bring
start
back.
it. Do you
You
know
can
what?
recycle that passion into the
He's kind of a
relationship.
dream man,
Like,
not gonna lie.
yeah, low key. Like you're
He's
so
got
passionate about like tiny
Passion,
things
dreams,
Yeah.
and
goals.
drive.
Motivated.
Yeah, like
and nothing's getting him down. Love him.
I love that.
My
for him.
friend
yeah, cute.
Lackland,
Yeah.
he watched Fight Club and fell asleep, but he didn't get past the Fight Club, so he just thought the film was about a fight club.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you didn't see the end about like the kind of like the, I don't know, corporations? And he was like, what? And I was saying that's
He's
like
like,
exactly
love that
like
film.
it's like falling asleep before the Titanic sinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like you just be
I
like,
would, I
it's
would,
a film
I'm not
about
gonna
a
lie,
romance on a book.
I'd fall
on a
asleep
boat.
before the Titanic sinks because why is it 3 hours?
Yeah, it's
Is it
long.
3 hours long?
I've never watched the film in its entirety. I think I've either caught
don't
the
know,
film
see,
in the
I don't know.
middle of it or at the beginning of it. I've never actually like watched the film from start to finish.
That's a TV film I watched
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I've never put
Yeah.
on the Titanic.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'd
No.
never choose to watch like so I'm gonna sit down and watch this for 3 hours.
no.
Like, no.
No way. But it's like being like, oh, it's a romance.
Yeah,
on a boat.
yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
no.
No, it's not that. Like
They did what?
also like there's so much to unpack about that film as well because
She's terrible.
yeah, she let homie die.
Yeah, she
like
just moved a little bit. That's all.
But also
She didn't like him that much because she just could have
Yeah.
just moved a little bit.
I
She's,
heard
like, lived
somebody
this-
like describe it as like so funny.
What, describe as what?
Somebody like described the whole film as her just like remembering like I don't know if this is like too crass to say, but just remembering like a really good like time of like sex that she had, just really good sex
Yeah,
that she
that's
had.
it.
And it's just like she just looks back on this one like encounter she had, and she was like, yeah,
She didn't remember anything about like
that was
her
fire.
family or like
No.
her kids or
Yeah,
like
because especially she was like an old lady telling the whole, and she's just like, oh yeah, Jack,
Jack.
What a guy.
top
Yeah.
top
Jack.
tier.
Not good enough to actually save, but
Yeah,
he was
but like
alright,
he
to
knew,
be
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
Oh
literally,
my god.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good. Yeah, I'd rather fight. I'd rather
That
fight
was-
Club Bay than Monte.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Thank you. I don't know how to
Such
wrap
an
this up.
anticlimactic.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you, Bina, for being here. Thank you for
for
coming to
having me.
Dundee.
Yeah, thanks for
it's
coming.
been an
with me.
absolute
Up to
pleasure.
Dundee.
It was quite the pilgrimage. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. It's
Yeah.
been fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Hopefully, I don't know.
Hopefully see you again sometime.
I would like that a lot.
We'll take you around Dundee. See what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll do a review.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
look around all the schemes.
Yeah, all the schemes,
Yeah,
the
the
different
ends.
ends. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been
I don't
real,
know.
guys.
Is that how you end it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.